My grandmother said I was too independent, so I became helplessly dependent on her. Her name's Ellen, and she has this habit of making comments whenever I do things on my own. When I bought my first car, she sighed and said, "Guess you don't need your family anymore." When I fixed a leaky sink, she accused me of acting like I was too smart to ask for help. I usually brushed it off. My mom said that's just her weird way of showing love. But last month, something changed. We were at my cousin Alyssa's engagement party, and I was sharing how I'd just been promoted, youngest marketing director in my company. I was proud, but Grandma sat there, shaking her head. When I finished, she looked around the room and said, "She never calls, never visits. Thinks she's too good for her old grandma." The room got quiet. No one stood up for me. Alyssa awkwardly tried to change the subject, but Grandma doubled down. She started talking about how her friend's granddaughter calls every day, how close they are, and how I'd rather struggle than ask for help. I went home that night feeling embarrassed, but also with a plan. If Grandma wanted to be needed, then fine. I'd need her for everything. The next morning, I called her at 6 a.m. to ask how to make coffee. She sounded confused, but once I said I wanted her advice, she lit up. I got a 20-minute lecture about beans, water temp, and coffee grounds. An hour later, I called again, this time to ask what shoes went with my outfit. She was thrilled. Then I asked how to write a formal email. She nearly glowed, talking about grammar and etiquette. By noon, I called her 8 times. She started bragging to Grandpa about how I was finally listening to her wisdom. The next day, I went harder. Called during her favorite morning show to ask how to boil an egg. She muted the TV and gave me detailed instructions. I called during her book club to ask if I should use fabric softener. I heard her proudly telling her friends how close we were getting. I even interrupted her dinner asking how to program a TV remote. She helped, but her food got cold. By the end of the week, I was calling her 20 times a day. What route to take to work, black pen or blue, how many ice cubes to put in water. She still answered, but her voice started sounding tired. Then I started visiting. One night at 9 p.m., I showed up at her house with a laundry basket, claiming I didn't know how to use the washing machine. She was in her pajamas, watching Jeopardy, but tried to act happy as she showed me how to separate colors, something I'd done since college. Her smile looked tight. Her voice strained as she explained water temperatures again. The real turning point came at 2 a.m. on a Thursday. I knocked on her door, crying about a nightmare. Grandpa opened, confused. I rushed inside, sobbing that Grandma had said I never relied on family, so here I was. She came downstairs in her robe and had to sit with me for an hour while I told her about a dream where giant spiders were chasing me. She kept glancing at Grandpa like she was starting to regret her wish. After 2 weeks of this, she looked drained. She stopped inviting friends over and turned down their calls because she never knew when I'd need something. One day, I called her during her doctor's appointment just to ask how to address an envelope. Her voice sounded on the verge of panic. That's when she finally snapped. Grandma called a family meeting. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. She sat everyone down and tried to talk without admitting she'd brought this on herself. "She's been very attentive lately," she started carefully. I pulled out my phone and showed everyone my call log, 200 calls in just 2 weeks. "I'm just doing what Grandma said. Not being too independent." That's when the truth came pouring out. My aunt admitted Grandma once shamed her for hiring a cleaning service. My uncle said she mocked him for using meal delivery kits. Even Alyssa admitted Grandma guilted her about using a wedding planner. Grandma sat there, quiet. And for the first time, I think she saw it. She realized she'd been pushing us all away with her constant judgment. She finally admitted, maybe independence isn't such a bad thing after all. She said she'd just been afraid of being left behind. We made a new deal. I'd call her once a week for a real, meaningful conversation. And I'd come over once a month for Sunday dinner. No more guilt trips. No more 2 a.m. breakdowns over coffee or spiders. Though sometimes, if she starts criticizing someone for being too self-sufficient, she pauses, takes a breath, and remembers those 2 exhausting weeks when she got exactly what she asked for.